All right. So I tried to put this all on TikTok, but it did not work. That I don't see how people do that all day. So I'm still learning though. I'm still learning. I'm trying to be more, more exposure to the business and my brand. Anyways, so I'll tell the full story. So I was dating this guy, and everything was going well. We were hitting it off. We were hitting it off. Don't mind my air conditioner in the background. It's super loud. I don't understand why it blows like I'm in an industrial building, but it's all good as long as it works. Um we're dating. Everything is going well, right? And I'm there all the time. And we're spending this time together, talking about moving in together and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I finally found my boo. I knew it was the time. I'm getting older. My friends are married and they have children. Blah 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 blah. Ladies, do not try to rush. Um, don't try to rush that. Maybe that story is just for me, but don't try to rush that. Just because everybody um, is in or you don't know what's going on in other people's houses. You just don't know. Just trust God's timing, because I've always tried to make it work on my end by myself, because I was told by my late pastor that not everybody is meant to get married, and I feel like I have fought against that ever since I heard that, and it has gotten me into nothing but trouble. And I could have been way further in my life in so many different areas if I wasn't trying to fulfill my desires instead of what God's desires. Yeah, that's kind of deep, but this is about to get deep. So I'm with this guy, and we're there all the time, and I forgot what happened. Honestly, I don't know if we were on the phone or whatever, and he said something along the lines of, well, you kind of are here all the time. And in my head, I'm like, but you want us to move together. You talking about marriage, and you said it was okay for me to bring my stuff over, because I asked. I'm not that type of female that just be bringing stuff. Oh, we in here now. Where am I gonna put my stuff in the bathroom? I don't do that. I don't do that, because I wouldn't want anybody encroaching on my space. Y'all remember MySpace? Y'all remember MySpace? Why I'm not in your top? Why I'm not in your top? People used to get mad. But anyways, so so I felt the way about that, but I didn't speak up. And this is something that I had to learn how to do whenever I feel like I'm confused, because that is not of God. Whenever I feel like I'm confused or I don't know what is going on, I need to speak up, because if I don't, or if we don't, or if you don't, whatever, however you want to frame it, there's going to be blurred lines. And when it comes to your heart, when it comes to your purpose and your blessings, you don't have time for blurred lines. No blurred lines, okay? So, the next day, I get up. Yeah, I think we were sitting on the couch. We was doing something. I don't even know, watching TV. So I took all my stuff. What's that gnat doing there? What? Um, the next day I get up, and I get all my stuff and I pack it up. Now, mind you, I was working at a camp, and it was in New York, and I live in New Jersey. And I know he was like, well, why is she taking all her stuff? So the next day I took all my stuff, because now, yeah, this was in June. Now I remember this. Because everything happens so fast. And when it happens too fast, I mean, sometimes it works for people. Let me not say that, because I've seen where, people have met somebody and it moved fast. They got married and they're happily married, and whatever the case may be. But this was moving way too fast, because I want to say this was like, I'm embarrassed to say, oh my God. But I'm going to be transparent, because I don't want anybody to go through what I've gone through. So I'm going to be transparent. This had to be like maybe like 3 weeks in. I think it was like 3 weeks in. And he was the one talking about moving in. I didn't say it. He was the one talking about marriage. I didn't say that. He was the one saying it was okay for me to bring my stuff in there. I asked. But yeah. And men, say what you mean and mean what you say. And women, say what's on your heart. If you feel confused, ask about it. You don't gotta be rude. You know, you just don't want any blurred lines, okay? So, what side I want to sew first? Let's do this side. So, I go. He walks me to the car because he would walk me to my car every morning because it was a little bit of a bad area, you know. I'm a suburban girl. Boo, you gonna walk me to the car? I know I'm taking all my stuff, but you gonna walk me to the car. So he walked me to the car, and you know, he looked a little bit confused, and he was like, you got some of my stuff in there, like trying to make a joke. But I know he wanted to ask, like, well, dang, is she coming back? Again, I did not say anything. That passive aggressive thing, that's not cool either. Like being passive aggressive and not saying anything, like that's immature. And I was immature. So, but I also didn't know how to communicate very well or whatever. And that's something that I've been working on. So, I made sure that, you know, I didn't go over there unless I was invited. Because I just used to come over after work. You know, we used to chill. He had a child or whatever. And me and him and his son, we used to go out, go to the park, and go to the movies and all that other good stuff. I really love that boy. I still do. And I miss him. I think 4th of July weekend came up. We went in, one of his cousins was getting married, so we went to the wedding. Now you inviting me to meet family, like your mother, your sisters, all this other stuff. Now you inviting me and you're opening up your world to me or whatever, right? I have met them maybe, again, like a week prior or something like that. And now I went back to go and go to because they had like a big block party for the kids because there was a lot of people who had birthdays in July. So went over there, met the family or whatever, drove back, and then, you know, still not saying anything, not discussing the things that were said prior, and, you know, going on. But there were some, I guess, you know, you can say red flags, because my whole thing is like, well, why wouldn't, you know, why say that you want me to be here, but you don't want me to be here? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Anyways, so now, you know, I just felt really convicted because, you know, I'm going to church, spending the night with this man, doing things that I know I shouldn't be doing. And, you know, but yet I still want to get blessings. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to get blessings if I'm not even walking? I can't even do this one thing right. Like, serious? Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I guess I'll get into a video about that. But, you know, I've had stuff that has happened to me when I was younger. So I only know how to express myself with using my body. And I was still learning how to express myself with, you know, without that. So I spoke to him and I was like, you know, I think that we should slow down because, you know, we really just jumped right into this. And, you know, I want to get to know you on a deeper level, especially if we were talking about moving in and being together and all this other stuff. Like, you know, it has to be something deeper or whatever. And he's like, okay. I can tell he was a little bit standoffish about it at first or whatever. So, and I went over there after church. Yeah, I was so scared. I was like, and in my head, I should have just broken up with him. Trust your instincts. But I'm like, well, you know, who else is going to want me, you know, because my age was talking. I wasn't letting the Holy Spirit talk. I was letting my age talk. Like, I was letting my eggs talk. That sounds bad, but I was letting my eggs talk, right? So, the next week it was a little weird or whatever. I guess we kind of hung out, but not really. And What's that thing? I'm trying to remember everything. I'm sorry. So wait. I might have to backtrack because I have a bad habit of blocking things out when it gets a little bit too hard or when it's hurt me that bad. I mean, I can laugh about it now because I'm just like looking back on it like, man, I should have just left when he said I was there all the time. Ninja, you wanted me? You wanted to okay, anyways. So now as time goes on, I would tell him about the guys at the job, and there was this one guy in particular. He was always flirting with me and all that stuff, but I ain't wanted him. I wanted my boo. I wanted us to work out. So we after that, I came home. Now, this summer, I was working at a summer camp. When I was working at the summer camp, if anybody has ever worked with kids, or especially at a camp, like in the summertime, being out in the sun all the time. Why is it getting so dark? What time is it already? So I was like, I came home, and normally I would go straight to his house, but I'm like, I'm not going to go straight to his house because, for one, he always felt like I was going over there all the time. And, I was trying not to go down the forbidden path. The forbidden path, yeah, because I know what I would have did, what my flesh wanted to do. So, then go down the forbidden path, and then we were talking on the phone. We were talking on some app that used to drain my battery because I didn't have an iPhone at that time. And, he's like, what you about to do, whatever, which was his code of, I don't feel like talking on the phone no more. And he's like, well, I'm about to play this game. I was like, all right, cool. So he was playing the game, and at the app drained my battery. So when I got off the phone, I put my phone on the charger upstairs, and it was still off. So I'm like, well, it's all right, because I had ran bath water, and the water in my mother's house is super hot. So if you put in super hot water, you got to wait a while before you get in there. I like hot water, but I don't want to be boiling. You know what I'm saying? So I put the phone on the charger. Ooh, I almost broke my needle. Put the phone on the charger. Went back downstairs. The air was hitting just right, too. Sat on the couch. And then I laid on the couch. This was the killer. I laid on the couch watching Ant-Man. I'm like, oh, this is super funny. Next thing I know, it's 10 o'clock the next morning. 10, 11 o'clock the next morning, right? So I'm like, oh, shoot, I passed out. And I was kind of half expecting him to ask me to come back over or whatever, or call me back. But I had passed out. And for a long time, I blamed myself for this. Ladies, don't blame yourself for what the Holy Spirit is trying to show you. Because he showed me something before, but I ignored it because I let my flesh talk. And I let my flesh want to take over. And my eggs, okay? So, now, I go upstairs. I check my phone, talk to my mother a little bit. And I had missed calls. I had missed text messages. And I'm like, I was like, hey, my bad. I just woke up or whatever. He's like, I text him back. Yeah, he didn't call me. And I text him back, and he was like, you asleep that whole time? You just now waking up? And I was like, yeah, man, I was tired or whatever. And he was like, he's like, man, ain't no way you sleep. And then he went and he did the math and everything. He's like, ain't nobody gonna sleep for 12 hours, and you wasn't asleep. You was with somebody else, like insinuating that I was with somebody. Now, mind you, we had never gotten into no argument, nothing. He never accused me of doing anything like that because I didn't. I was always with him. So, and he's like, you were doing this, you were doing that. And I was like, no, I wasn't. I was like, I promise you, like, I was asleep. He was like, you know what? He's like, something told me to go by there and see what was going on. I was like, well, you should have, because my car was in the back. I didn't go anywhere. I was here. There was nobody here. I was knocked out on the couch. Now, mind you, him and my mother were cool. So he could have came by, and she probably would have let him in and saw me knocked out, drooling on the couch. And dirty, because I forgot to take a shower. I know that's a little TMI. But I was knocked out. Don't act like y'all ain't never did that. So He broke up with me, right? I'm devastated. I'm like, I'm never gonna find anybody. I need him to know that I would never cheat on him and I love him, blah, 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 blah. Now, mind you, I had told him I loved him, but he said it was too early. I don't know if I said that before, but he said it was too early, but I knew how I felt. And, oh no, my phone about to die. So let me try to get this over with. So now I'm like stuck in the house. I don't want to go anywhere. I want him, to hear me out. I'm like, just hear me out. He was like, I don't, whenever my son leaves, then we can talk, but I'm not talking to you now. Like, he was mad. I ain't never seen this man mad. Well, this one is cute. Sometimes, I'll be making stuff and I'm like, I don't want to give it away. It has a little pocket inside, contrast color. Okay, pull that up, put that over there. And so, finally we get to speak. We're speaking. And, he's like, we're talking and I'm telling him what happened. I'm like, I would never cheat on you. I love you. I said it again. And I hadn't said it since the first time because I'm just like, I'm not trying to scare nobody away, whatever. So we start talking and he was like, you're the only person here. My family doesn't live here, whatever. And he told me he loved me. I was like, yeah, I love you too, whatever. Then we reconcile. So again, I use my body to try to get him to stay, right? Maybe this is just me, so maybe I'm just talking to myself, but anybody else that has been down that road or thinking about going down this road, I'm talking to you. That was just me because of stuff that has happened in my back, in my past. So, now, we done reconcile, right? And on reconciliation night, or maybe this was a couple days later, but he had always told me that he didn't like to get in the bed with his socks on because when he was in the Army, his socks got really dirty and it just made him feel dirty or whatever. So first of all, he got in the bed late. Like he normally didn't do that. Whenever I got in the bed, he would get in the bed. So he got in the bed and he had stayed in the living room for a while. And I had, I was in the living room. I was in his room and I was like, well, why? He normally comes in here. And so, and that night he said he didn't want to reconcile again. Right. So I'm like, okay, that's not the only reason why I come over here. Like, I enjoy your company. At least I thought you enjoyed mine. But anyways, so now I'm over there. And, I fell asleep. Then he finally gets in the bed and he got his socks on. And I'm like, I'm a touchy person. So I normally like move my feet over and like touch his feet because he had really soft feet. Softer than mine. And I was like, why he got his socks on? So that weekend we go to, I had bought him preseason tickets to a Giants and Jets game or something like that. And he was like, he just didn't seem excited. And I'm just like, bro, I don't make that much money at the summer camp for you not to be excited about these tickets. Excuse me. So we went to the game. And in the middle of this, whatever, after we had our little disagreement, I had brought him to my job. And he had met the people that I was telling him about. Or, not the one that was trying to get at me or, And he was looking them up and down like, And I'm like, is he sizing them up? I'm like, I don't want them. Anyway, so we go to the game. And while we're at the game, like, it was like he didn't really want to hold my hand or whatever. And we were talking a little bit in the car or whatever. And at this time, I had just, I was still trying to figure myself out. And I hadn't had like a real, excuse me, full-time job. I was a professional athlete for a really long time. So it was like I was still trying to find my footing. Whereas he had a different upbringing. He was on his own since he was 18. I was still relying on my mother for a lot of the different stuff that I was doing. Like she was helping me pay a lot of my bills and stuff like that. And around that time, I was trying to figure out like what was going to be my next move. I wasn't really sure what my next move was going to be, and then that's when I met him, and that's why I thought it was about to be a match made in heaven, but no, it was hell. So while we're at the game, we're walking through the stadium, and he's like holding my hand. You ever walk with somebody, or excuse me, I don't have a Rona. I need some water. So he's holding my hand, and you know how if a child is holding their parent's hand, and they're like kind of, the parent is walking ahead and the kid is back there? That's how he was holding my hand. And I was like, that's kind of weird. He ain't never did that before. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So when we go in the stadium, there was these two guys in there, and they were like walking near us. And when they came near, I felt him pull me closer. And so I was like, now I'm sitting back and I'm paying attention to all this. I'm like, okay, you was just holding me like I was your child, and now you pulling me closer. I don't want them. I'm here with you. I bought these tickets to surprise you with a little bit of $11 an hour, whatever I was making at that time. So going to the game, we left at halftime because you know how the traffic be on the let out. We're driving home, we talking. He's kind of quiet, and I'm just like, something is off. And again, I did not say anything when I should. You hear my air conditioner? Disrespectful. So didn't say anything, and pull up into his, now first of all, we never really parked in his little parking lot. We normally park on the street. We parked in the back in his parking lot. Now mind you, as I said earlier, I had brought a lot of my stuff home, but that day, since I felt like we were going down a better path, I had brought stuff over to stay the night. Like, I get to stay the night with my boo. We reconciled. He loved me. He told me he loved me. Park. And as soon as he puts his car into park, he is like, man, we need to talk. And I was like, okay, what we need to talk about? And he was like, oh man, this ain't gonna work. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the dashboard, and I'm like, y'all ever seen what's that show with Issa Rae? Oh man, I can't think of the name. But she be talking in the mirror before she starts, you know, she's talking to herself. That's how I felt. Like, I'm like, okay, do I punch him in his face now? Like, how I'm gonna do this? Like, the rowdy Bree was like, well, you know, what we about to do? What we about to do? So then I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, man, he's like, this ain't gonna work. And I was like, but you just told me that you love me. He was like, shh, man, I don't love you. I was like, again, speechless. I'm like, he's like, man, I was just caught up in the moment. I don't love you. Now again, now I'm starting to shake, and I'm like, I don't even know how to feel right now. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed because I'm like, you know, I had told him stuff that I had never told anybody, and I was so embarrassed. So we were sitting there, we were talking for a little while. We left, and when we were walking upstairs or whatever, like trying to hold in the tears, I think I cried a little bit as we were walking up the stairs. And then when we went inside, we were talking, and like, say the camera is me. He was all the way over there by where, I mean, that's not that far, but like, you know how we social distancing now, 6 feet apart? He was like 12, like he was far away. He was talking to me, and I don't know if you know about body language, but now he's like this. Now he's protecting himself, and he's like this. And I'm like, I was like, what is, like, what's, he's like, ain't nothing wrong with me. Ain't nothing wrong with me. Don't tell me something. I'm like, okay, all right. I was like, I don't understand where this is coming from. And he was like, well, you don't smoke, you don't drink, I never dated anybody that didn't do that. And I'm like, okay, now you're bringing this up, but I told you this from the beginning, so now it's an issue. All right. Then he goes, And then, you know, that thing, you know, you still live with your mom, and, you know, you still relying on her for, you know, different stuff or whatever. I was like, well, I thought we were trying to work with each other in that vein, like to get, you know, because I had never been out on my own. And then when my father passed away, I was afraid to leave. But that's another story. We're gonna have to sew and chat at another time. So now I'm just like, okay. And then he's like, you know, that's what's really holding. He was like, if last week didn't happen, meaning me falling asleep and him thinking that I was with another dude or whatever, then I would be able to work with you. But I can't do it. I can't do it. So now I'm in there. Now I'm crying, and like the ugly cry too, with my back towards him. And I'm trying to, you know, put my stuff in the bag. But you know how when you're crying, I'm about to cry.